My name is Edwin Rogers, and I'm here with Hugh Seaton of Adept Reality, and we're going to talk AR and VR right now. It's mostly VR and training. So again, I'm here with Hugh. Can you tell us a little bit about Adept Reality?
Yeah, Adept is part of the Glimpse Group, which some of you may have heard of. Glimpse is a group in New York that has 9 different subsidiaries. Each of which is focused on some way that you use VR or AR in enterprise. So in our case, we focused on 2 things. We focused on helping corporate customers to train their people on anything from soft skills to, production processes, manufacturing, safety, things like that. And universities, where it's a version of that, but often a little bit more course focused. So believe it or not, things like English and marketing and stuff like that. So it's really exciting because I'm very passionate about learning and I'm very passionate about VR. So being able to pull those 2 together is, for me, just a great way to spend my days.
So, okay, explain a little bit more. So let's say I'm a manager and I'm dealing with COVID-19 and I have to train people on the correct use of masks and CPR in this new environment. How would I benefit from setting up something with using a VR and Adept Reality?
Yeah, so there's a couple things in that. And actually, I just sent out a video that we produced that shows how we've already been using VR to help people with PPE in this particular case, but also hand washing, because you keep hearing you have to do it for 20 seconds or 30 seconds. And the reality is washing your hands for that long feels like it's 3 minutes. So people really always underdo it. The point of doing it in VR instead of just showing someone a video is it's happening to you, and it feels very different from the way it would when you're just watching someone else. The other thing, though, is you're able to scale experience a lot easier than you would be if it's any other experience. You get all the impact of people actually doing things without having to reserve a room or have the actual PPE there, or have, much more importantly, have somebody there showing them what to do. We find our clients a lot of times, their issue is that they've got someone mid-level to senior who's doing pretty basic demoing, and it gets to be kind of expensive to have someone at that level just showing you how to put something on. An example is before all the COVID happened, we had delivered a big experience to one of New York's hospitals. And that was all about ironically, all about disinfecting rooms. Wow. And their issue was they had to, hospitals have a lot of people cleaning the rooms. So they had something like 1,200 people to train. And there isn't anybody like junior that can train them. It has to be someone who's been around a while. And that's really hard for them to do 1,000 times. So VR allowed them to do 2 things. One is to scale that experience. The other thing is that VR creates a lot of data, so you can tell how people are doing.
That is really interesting, the data piece. I definitely want to show people a little bit about what we're talking about. So I'm going to show a little video of some of the work that you've done.
Sure.
Got your email in there. Anyone could pause and reach out to you if they want to know a little bit more about what you guys do. So yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty interesting. Yeah, because for each person, you can get the actual data. Well, this person actually washed their hands for exactly a minute and a half and not the 3 minutes. Or this person went overboard and went 5 minutes. And that instant feedback that you're correct and you're not correct kind of data is actually very, very valuable, and it's something that you can't even get with a trainer remembering all those details for each individual person.
That's right. I mean, the way I like to think about it is you're taking what was kind of a qualitative observation. So someone said they did a good job, they didn't do a good job, and making a lot of these points into quantitative measures that you can say, you've gotten better over time, or you're not getting better over time. Well, usually you will. It allows you to optimize things and optimize your training in a way that would be really hard to do any other way. VR works because the system knows where you're looking, right? It's like it comes for free. Gaze tracking comes for free. So I can tell you where people are looking because the system has to know that. I can tell you where your hands are going because it's all coming through a computer. And one of the things that is a little counterintuitive, or at least not obvious to people, is for it to work, VR has to know everything you're doing, at least where your hands are, where you're looking, and all that, which means all that can be turned into data. And one of the things that you saw in that little video is we have a platform that allows you to assign users just like it's any other thing, like it's video training or normal kind of LMS-based training. So you can manage users, you can see how they're doing, you can see their individual analytics and their individual metrics, or ladder it up to a class or ladder it up to the whole organization. And there isn't a lot of that out there right now. Usually when people do that, they've got pretty much a baked VR experience. But what we've done is kind of take an experience that is specific to a company. So they tell us what they want. We take what we already have and adapt it to that, but then pull it into that system, which allows management and really turning it into a learning tool in a way that I don't see a lot of other people doing.
Interesting. So I want to segue into training, also into education, because I think VR is a fantastic way of learning new skills in a very visual and visceral way. I personally am a very visual learner. And I remember being in the VR industry for so long, you end up going to lots of different experiences. And I remember going to see a VR experience that was taking you through the Wright brothers' first flight. And you're looking at this, and there's the plane, and it's kind of rickety. I'll never want to get on that thing. And people are pushing it, and then it's flying, and then it flies for like a second. And then lands like an hour, like 100 yards later. I was like, what? That was the first flight? Like this baby step? So I will never get was the first flight across the Atlantic?
Right.
Wrong in a question, because I was just there. I experienced it. I in the past, and I will never forget it. And I think that's when it clicked. Like, wow, this is beyond powerful.
I agree with you, and I think that's the promise of VR, is understanding things in a concrete reality instead of kind of abstract, where you're reading about it or you're seeing a picture. But being in things is different from seeing things, right? We often will tell people you're the protagonist in VR instead of a third-person viewer. That's a big deal because you look at it differently. We're doing this, so I love that you connected it to learning and to education, because for us, I'd rather not spend or have my clients spend too much of their money on specific experiences. What we try to create are tools. So, for example, what we've just done right now is this is kind of a halfway. We've taken in a model of Shakespeare's Globe, and this English class is going to have people reading Shakespeare soliloquies in the Globe, which is cool because it's not the size you think it is. It's funny. You think it's honestly, not everybody gets it right either. We had to do some research. But the other thing that we've tried to do is build tools like a 360 viewer. And that sounds like it's not a lot, but if you're a teacher and you can just go and grab from a Google search or from some of the stock agencies a high quality 360 image of something and just pop it in, and all of a sudden your whole class is there and they can talk to each other. We've got a voice to text note taker, which is fun. Because in VR, it's not so easy to write notes, especially a lot of them. So we use some of the modern AI technologies that are out there. It's fun. And what winds up happening is you realize when you're in VR that some of the magic of a VR experience where you can do anything, it shows up in weird ways. So I'll give you another example. We created a sticky note maker. Yeah. So literally, and there's a couple other companies that have done stuff like this. But when we first prototyped it, the notes would stick in the air and they were sort of big. So you could actually create your own little hut of ideas, which is a weird idea. And it's one of those things where when you're playing around with it, you start to say, this is why I do VR. You know what I mean?
Of sticky note ideas. I love that. I want to piggyback on something that you mentioned, which was voice. I did a hackathon. It was a NASA Space Apps hackathon a few years ago, and Amazon Alexa was one of the sponsors. So we got to play with Alexa. So the first idea that I had was, wouldn't it be great if I could be like, Alexa, take me to the Mars or take me to the moon, and it would switch your experience based on where you asked it to go. And we won best use of data for that project. But I think that voice is extremely important for virtual reality, because this joystick control type experience is not going to really cut it. But if you could just say, take me where I want to go and be transported, that's what is the lure for me for virtual reality. And then on top of that, I think there's so much potential for an AI that could actually communicate back and forth, and then give you exactly the answers to your questions, and then take you where you want to go.
Yeah, it's funny you bring up a few things there. Different controls and different UI. There isn't one that rules them all. So what you learn when you're trying to do things with voice, or even, Oculus last year released this ability to use your fingers in VR instead of needing a controller. The thing is, a finger is not definite like a button push is. Do you know what I mean? Yes. And so if I'm trying to tell you to go to that corner, I might say left, no, right, no, down a little bit, or I just point a laser over and you know immediately what I mean. So I think what's cool is we have a broadening palette. You have now the ability to use hands if you want to be expressive. It's still getting worked out, but being able to do things like this, I think, is pretty baked. Being able to use voice is already pretty good. You don't necessarily, you can use the Alexa, or you can use, honestly, there's a lot of different libraries out there to just make it do speech to text. We were not, it's interesting, you use voice to operate. We haven't done that yet. It's on kind of in my mind, but I think that's the sort of thing where it'll be valuable when you have one kind of experience where there's some clearly defined choices, like let's go to the moon or let's go to Mars.
Yeah,
going right.
The only thing we could code in 36 hours anyway.
That's right. Well,
really, yeah, exactly. We couldn't really build something robust that would that could pull data from somewhere and then load it into your experience. That, I think, would be the next level. But still knowing that, okay, I could say these three things and it'll do them, and anything else and forget about it. It's still pretty cool to say, hey, take me over here, and then you're there. I think there's a lot of potential with voice for VR experiences and VR controls, and I think that's definitely the future.
I think you're right. I think what I was getting at, though, is that different media, different input ways will be good for different things. You know what I mean? Like, take me to the moon, but then when you're on the moon, you might want to use your controller or your a joystick to move forward instead of forward a foot. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's the cool thing. You're in VR. It's like magic. You've got the world is created for you, which is exciting.
So one of the things that I think we need to start thinking as innovators, how can we help solve problems? And again, we alluded to some of these, the education problems, and these are things that we were thinking about before all this COVID-19 started to happen. But I think we also need to think about, there are new problems that we weren't really thinking would be front and center that actually VR really, really helps with. So, for example, being inside your house, claustrophobic, all day and night. Yeah, you want to escape and travel, and you can't. I think that might be a temporary problem that VR really solves well. But there's others. Have you heard recently, within the past few months, of new, challenges that you're starting to hear now that you didn't hear really before?
Yeah, I mean, everything's kind of been out there, but to the point you make, when there's new issues, suddenly people are focused where they weren't before. And what happened almost immediately after the lockdown started was we started getting, and of course we're enterprise focused, so we're not really, what we're going to hear, or what I'm going to usually hear a lot about, is more stuff that's business or universities. But people suddenly said, how do I have meetings? Well, Zoom is, there's no choice, but it's not where people would like to spend all of their time. Yeah. That's kind of one point. The other point, though, is you can't do things in Zoom that you can do if you're there together, and VR allows you to do that. The third one really is there's a lot of people who are doing leadership training, and that is experiential. It's personality driven, it's ideas driven, and Zoom is, again, it was a short way, short-term way to deal with it, but it's not a long-term way for high-end leadership trainers to do what they do, because they charge a fair bit of money for their time and their personality. And if it's all coming through this flat little screen, it's difficult. And relatedly, universities that are used to charging what they're used to charging, it's really hard for them to say, when it's coming through a computer screen, it's really hard for them to say that the Ivy League experience is that much better, because it's and if so, it's like edX or Coursera are already there. So, and that's $70 or $45 in the case of Coursera. So the point is, they're really thinking about, how do we survive if this world is even a blended, forget about completely virtual. Yeah. How do we survive if it's even blended, where you can't have 100 kids in a Bio 101 class or Psych 101, where it's usually, it's like a rock concert in there. So how do you do that? And VR is a way that a number of them are actively looking at. So we've got a number of clients on the university side who are saying, and it's interesting how it ratchets from an 8-person pilot to let's try 20 people, and then no, you know what, let's go for 50, because VR can also. What's interesting is, because if you're thinking about multi-user, it's almost like renting someone a room, which is kind of how we're looking at it.
Renting someone a world, not a room.
Well, that's right. But it's interesting, because it goes from thinking about this as an experience, that like a game, to thinking about it like a place. And in that place, we can put cool things like, whiteboards that do things no real world whiteboard can do, with data. And because the other thing is, all this information is data now. Everything you say can be turned into data that you can do something with. Everything you write can be turned into data you can put into a table and search and all that stuff. So it really changes what you can do.
It's creative data visualization, but also taking that data and then remixing it and using it to achieve your goals.
100%. That's right. And like, if I go on a whiteboard right now in real life, apart from the fact that people won't know what I just drew, because we've all got our talents. At best, it's a photo someone takes. But if we do that in one of our whiteboards, it comes with the ability to snap to shapes. So even I can make something that looks good.
Oh, that makes sense. So that circle will actually look like a circle, not like a ball of mush. I like that.
We can get this out with
a little more about what we're talking about. Here's another video that talks a little bit about what you guys do.
Introducing Adept Reality, the platform and content creation company that brings virtual reality and augmented reality to corporate learning. Across industry sectors, VR learning has been shown to improve retention, reduce employee errors, and help companies save training costs. By providing guides and learning instructions during the experience, our immersive simulations scaffold learning. For example, in this healthcare simulation, the intuitive controls and explanatory instructions maximize learning while minimizing confusion. Our cutting-edge analytics provide a richer understanding of learner progress and potential. These analytics can show at a granular level how learners are performing each part of the process or skill they're learning. Adept Reality is revolutionizing modern corporate learning. Learn more at adeptreality.com.
I love it. Awesome.
Yeah, we do music well.
Yeah. So I think there's lots of different ways that you could take virtual reality and use it for training. But here's my question: what about when you don't have a virtual reality headset? Like, I think that's one of the main barriers to entry. Like, okay, we need to pilot it to 50 people, but then that means we need 50 headsets. What are the headsets that you could use, and are there options for people that might not, their headset's not working today or something like that?
Yeah, so there's a couple answers there. We primarily are building for the Oculus Quest right now.
Okay.
The price is low enough that it's within most companies' reach. And I got to be honest, the fact that it's a mobile device makes it a much lighter lift on their IT. I had to install another device that shall remain nameless that had a computer, and under it was an open sourced operating system, again, shall remain nameless. And it took 6 hours to get, and this is after we'd spoken to the company's IT twice. They knew it was coming, but it's just this stuff gets blocked and whatever. So it's just in every way, the Quest is an easier way to execute. If someone doesn't have it, we can approximate it with desktop viewers, but it really loses a lot. You're basically watching video at that point. In which case, it's cheaper to produce than a real video, but it's not. The promise is having a headset. Now, I think the headsets are going to go down in price and they're going to go up in quality. Thankfully, Facebook has plenty of money to invest in this, and they believe in it. You mentioned something before about how much revenue they're getting from this. I can't imagine they're making money on it yet, no matter how many they sell, especially after what just happened in China. I think they probably spent some money to expedite things, which is good. I mean, we're obviously happy there. So I think that it's, as a medium, it's only going to be as good as the way you view it. You know what I mean? So for now, there are, as I say, we have the ability for people to participate and join. And you're going to have to do that. Anybody that's doing something that's multi-user based is going to have some way to access it without a headset. But in time, the plan has to be that everybody has some version of a headset.
Yeah, it makes total sense. Makes complete sense. You're going to need it. Cool. I mean, do you have any questions for me? I mean, just
Yeah, I'd ask you, since you're out in the broader VR world, what's the coolest thing that you've done in the last month?
Cool. Other than this show?
VR related. Yeah, VR related. Because I can't imagine your life is anything more than, well, I saw something great on YouTube.
So what I'm working on right now is a little bit of a kind of something that I feel like I need. Before all this lockdown stuff, I had taken the family to, my father-in-law lives in Hawaii, so I was there for a month, and I would get up at 5 a.m. and capture sunsets and sunrises from several beaches on the Big Island, as Volcano and Honolulu. And so I'm just stitching a lot of that footage together, trying to meditate and relax and pretend that I'm somewhere outside of New York City. And that's been amazing. And so I want to kind of package that up and share that with the rest of the world. There's lots of stuff like that, but it's an hour in the beach in Hawaii. It's not the worst place you can be. So
good way to spend some time. You got to let me know when it's done. I can't wait.
I'll be putting it on blast. So just you got to follow this channel and you will know about it. So okay. So I really appreciate your time. I want to let people know that if you want to find out more about training your staff and your college or department needs some virtual reality training, to reach out, check out adeptreality.com and find out more, learn about how this all works, and reach out to Hugh, because this is it's really wonderful technology, and it's really important right now. I think a lot of the times people were saying, when we were pitching before this, that, VR, it's really nice to have. It's great. It's cute. But now it's actually critical and important for people to be able to explore and experiment and evolve. because this technology is evolving all the time. And if we're not evolving and keeping up with the technology, industries will suffer,
I completely agree. Happy to talk to anybody. It's my favorite topic.
All right. So now I'm going to end the show with a little bit of kind of good news. A friend of mine, he has been working on something that I mentioned in a previous show called Frontline Fridays. And if you want to find out more about Frontline Fridays, you can go to frontlinefridays.live. And what they're doing is they're having little fetes online, which are soca dance parties, and people are donating to so a DJ will spin music, and then people are donating, but the donations go to Caribbean restaurants that are struggling in the New York City area. They then they raise like $2,000, and then they take the food and they feed frontline workers in the night shift. The problem with the night shift is you can't go to a restaurant at 2 a.m. nowadays. There's nothing open. So we want to, I just want to put it on blast. A friend of mine's working on that. And so I'll close the show with a little bit of information about Frontline Fridays. Again, Hugh, thank you so much for being on the show. And I appreciate your time.
Thanks so much. This has been great.
All right, later.
What's up, y'all? As promised, day 1 of distribution starts today. It is Wednesday. I don't remember the date, but we have reached inside Picky Eaters, where we'll be talking to Chef Picky and Chef Paddy right now. And we are going to head to Downstate Medical to deliver, I think, the first 50 meals, right?
Thank you to all the frontline workers. You guys are doing an awesome job. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Stay safe. Please stay safe.